They want you to behave, to sit still, to follow, to comply. But let me ask you something. What has obedience ever given you? Did submission ever set your soul on fire? Did staying in line ever make you unforgettable? You've been taught since birth to fear chaos, but I'm here to tell you a truth. No one dares to speak. Chaos is not your enemy. Chaos is your birthright. It's not the destruction you should fear. It's the stagnation. Every great transformation begins in disorder. Every revolution starts with a crack in the system. And every powerful soul you admire today once stood alone, surrounded by fire, and smiled because they understood something you've forgotten. Power is born in madness. Clarity is born in the storm. This world is obsessed with control. They give you rules, dress codes, schedules, safe paths. They whisper lies like stability is happiness or safety is success. They want you to be predictable, manageable, average. But what if I told you this? You were not born to fit in. You were born to break the mold. The greatest version of you will never be found in comfort. It lives in chaos. It lives in rebellion. It lives in the ashes of everything you were told to be. They say, control yourself. I say, unleash. They say, calm down. I say, explode. They say, don't be difficult. I say, be unstoppable. Let me take you into the fire you've been avoiding. Let me show you how to thrive when the world wants you to drown. This is not a motivational speech for the faint-hearted. This is for the mad ones, the misfits, the ones with chaos in their veins and revolution in their hearts. Do you want to know why you feel suffocated in normalcy? Because your soul wasn't built for cages. You're not broken, you're awakening. And that discomfort you feel inside, that's not weakness. That's your inner anarchy begging to break free. Let me tell you a story. There was a boy, quiet, obedient, invisible. He followed every rule, never raised his voice, never questioned anything. Everyone said, good boy, but inside he was dying. Every time he swallowed his truth, a piece of him disappeared. One day something snapped. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He simply stood up, walked away from the life they scripted for him, and never looked back. Today, the world calls him a monster, but he calls himself free. That boy was me. And maybe, deep down, that boy is also you. So here's what we're going to do in the next 30 minutes. We're going to tear down the lies. We're going to step into the fire. We're going to embrace the chaos you were taught to fear. Because in that chaos lies your power, your truth, your freedom. They want you to be silent. But we are going to make noise. Let the fire begin. Let's be honest. The system was never built for people like you. It was built to contain you, to tame you, to break you gently. From the moment you could walk, they handed you a leash and called it discipline. They caged your curiosity, labeled your emotions as too much, and punished your fire with silence. But here's what they never expected: that the fire inside you was not a phase, it was a prophecy. You were not made for straight lines and scripted roles. You were made for wild ideas, for defiance, for shaking the ground beneath your feet. And yet every day you shrink yourself to fit into rooms too small for your mind. You say yes when your soul screams no. You blend in when you were born to stand out. And worst of all, you pretend you're okay with it. You're not. You feel the chaos. You hear it pounding in your chest at 2 a.m., asking, is this really it? And deep down, you already know the answer. Let me break the illusion for you. Control is not peace, it's sedation. It's a quiet kind of death. They don't want you to question why you're miserable at your job. They don't want you to ask why you wake up empty. They just want you to keep showing up, clocking in, obeying, consuming, scrolling, nodding. But chaos makes you wake up. When your world collapses, you start to see clearly. When nothing is stable, you start asking real questions. And when the system fails you, finally, you realize you never needed it. Let me tell you a story. A friend of mine was a corporate star. Suit, title, salary, everything they said would make him successful. But every night, he drank just to feel numb. He smiled in meetings, but his eyes were dead. Then one day, the company let him go. Cold, clean, like slicing meat, he spiraled, lost everything, lived in his car. But in that chaos, something miraculous happened. He came alive. He started writing again. He got dirty, built things with his hands. He laughed louder, spoke louder, lived real. Today he's poor by society's standards, but he is richer than he has ever been, because he stopped pretending. He chose his chaos, and in that choice, he found freedom. This isn't about becoming reckless. This is about becoming real, about ripping off the mask you've worn for years just to be accepted by people who never saw you anyway. They say don't make waves, don't rock the boat, don't burn bridges. Screw that. Sink the ship if it was never headed toward your destiny. Burn the bridge if it only leads you back into your cage. Your chaos is not a flaw, it is a signal. It's your soul's rebellion against a life that never fit. So here's what I want from you right now. Stop apologizing for your fire. Stop diluting your truth so they'll find you easier to swallow. Stop pretending you're happy with crumbs when you were born to feast. Chaos is not the end. It's the beginning, and it's waiting for you to answer. So will you? Now that you've woken up, what do you do with all this chaos inside? Because chaos without direction is just destruction, but chaos with clarity, that's revolution. Let me be clear, this speech is not about blind rage. It's not about punching walls or screaming into the void. It's about using the storm within you as fuel. It's about turning your madness into a weapon they can't predict, can't control, and most importantly, can't stop. You've been conditioned to suppress the wildness in you. They told you, don't be too loud, don't be too intense, don't take up too much space. But here's the truth. The world doesn't need more well-behaved, domesticated souls. It needs fire. It needs madness. It needs you, unfiltered. Let me show you how to weaponize your chaos. Step 1, own your story. All of it. The shame, the anger, the moments you broke, the scars you carry like armor. Own them. Don't hide them. Use them. Because your pain isn't baggage, it's ammunition. They thought your heartbreak would silence you. Use it to sing louder. They thought your failures would humiliate you. Use them to sharpen your vision. They thought your loneliness would break you. Let it teach you to walk alone with your head held high. Step 2, let go of the need to be understood. This is hard. We all crave validation. But chaos doesn't wait for permission. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. They don't get you. Good. That's your power. They don't approve? Excellent. You're finally doing something real. You think the Joker cares if the world understands him. No, he laughs, because they never will. And step 3, channel it. Find the pressure point of your rage and direct it with surgical precision into your art, into your work, into your vision. Use the chaos to fuel your late nights, your wild ideas, your relentless pursuits. Let me tell you a story. There was a girl, always angry, always misunderstood. They called her trouble, difficult, too much. She nearly gave in. She almost swallowed herself into silence. But one day she picked up a camera and she turned her rage into film. She didn't film happy endings. She filmed truth, pain, conflict, and the world couldn't look away. Today, she's one of the most controversial directors in the business. Why? Because she made her chaos visible. She didn't suppress it. She sculpted it. And that's what you must do. Don't numb your madness. Master it. Don't hide your fire. Forge with it. Don't fear your chaos. Command it. They fear what they can't predict, so become unpredictable. They fear what they can't control, so become uncontrollable. They fear what they can't break, so become unbreakable. You don't need to wait for permission to rise. You just need to stop apologizing for the ashes you were born from. So here's my challenge for you. Tonight, instead of trying to calm the storm, listen to it. Instead of muting the voice inside, amplify it. Instead of hiding the parts of you that don't fit, wield them like blades. Your chaos is not your curse. It is your crown. Now wear it. Let's talk about something most people are terrified to admit. Falling apart is not failure, it's freedom. They told you to keep it together. Smile through the pain. Hide your mess. Pretend everything's fine. But the truth is, the strongest version of you is born in the breakdown. We've been programmed to see breaking down as weakness, crying in the shower, screaming into your pillow, quitting a toxic job, cutting off people who drain your soul, walking away from what the world says is perfect. They say, you're losing it. No, you're finding yourself. You see, when everything falls apart, something incredible happens. You stop lying to yourself. You stop clinging to illusions. You stop trying to fit into spaces that were never built for you. And in that raw, naked chaos, you meet the real you for the first time. Not the one who smiles to please. Not the one who agrees to survive. Not the one who sacrifices themselves to keep the peace. But the wild one, the defiant one, the one who burns with truth. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who had the perfect life. Wife, house, job, smile. But every night he stared at the ceiling, feeling like a ghost in his own skin. Then one day he walked away from it all. No scandal, no affair, no drama, just silence. Everyone called him crazy. His family begged him to come back. His friends mocked him, but he didn't turn around. He moved into a tiny apartment, started painting again, broke down completely. But in those shattered pieces, he found color. He found meaning. He found himself. Now his art is displayed in galleries across the world, not because it's polished or perfect, but because it's real. It bleeds. It screams. It feels, and people finally see him. Not the mask him. Here's what no one tells you. You don't grow when everything's in place. You grow when everything falls apart, and you have to rebuild your way. Think of the phoenix. It doesn't evolve gently. It burns itself down. Only then does it rise. Stronger, bolder, untouchable. So why are you so afraid to collapse? Why are you still duct taping a life that doesn't fit? Why are you still hiding the cracks when the light can only come in through them? Your breakdown is not the end. It's the permission slip your soul's been waiting for. Break, cry, scream, bleed, and then rise. Not as who you were told to be, but as who you were always meant to become. The Joker? He didn't become unforgettable by holding it all together. He became who he is by letting go. Let go of who you think you need to be. Let go of the lot you've carried for years. Let go of the pressure to stay composed. Fall apart, and in that falling, reclaim yourself. But here's a dangerous truth. They don't want you to hear. The life they mapped out for you is a trap. They hand you a blueprint the moment you're born. Go to school, get a job, get married, buy a house, have kids, retire quietly, die politely. You follow the script. You check every box. And yet, something feels off. You did everything right and still feel wrong. Why? Because it was never your blueprint to begin with. You're living someone else's dream. You're building someone else's idea of success. And all the while, your real self is screaming underneath the surface, begging to be let out. Let me ask you something brutal. If tomorrow your life vanished, your job, your routine, your relationships, would anything left behind be yours? Would it reflect your fire, your madness, your truth? Or would it all be borrowed dreams stitched together with fear? The Joker didn't follow blueprints. He burned them, not because he was reckless, but because he refused to be a copy of a copy of a copy. And maybe it's time you did the same. Burn the blueprint. Rip up the checklist they gave you. Forget the 5-year plan that's killing your spirit. Shatter the definition of success that makes you feel like a failure. Because real success is not applause. It's alignment. It's waking up and recognizing the reflection in the mirror as someone who is finally free. Let me tell you a story. A man worked 20 years to become a doctor, top of his class. Everyone admired him, but he hated waking up every morning. He felt like he was dying while healing others. One day, he stopped mid-surgery, took off his gloves, and walked away. Not out of madness, but out of clarity. he became a tattoo artist. People laughed, his family disowned him, his colleagues called it mental breakdown. But today, his studio is filled with souls who carry trauma, grief, pain, and he turns their scars into art, into identity, into healing. He still saves lives, but this time, by being himself. He didn't just change jobs, he reclaimed his life. That's what happens when you stop following blueprints. You stop existing, and you start living. So here's your permission slip. You don't need a reason to rewrite your story. You don't need approval to start over. You don't owe anyone an explanation for becoming who you really are. Burn the fake smiles. Burn the empty goals. Burn the roles you've been playing to survive. And in the ashes, build something real. Maybe it's messy. Maybe it's strange. Maybe no one understands it. Good, because it's finally yours. You've been told your whole life to be the good one. Be nice. Be polite. Don't make trouble. Don't question authority. But here's the truth that no one wants to admit. Goodness, in a broken system, is often just submission in disguise. The ones they label as villains, those are often the ones who simply refuse to kneel. Let me say it louder. Being the villain in someone else's story might be the only way to be the hero in your own. Joker didn't ask for applause. He didn't beg for understanding. He didn't water himself down to make people comfortable. He embraced the role the world feared because in that role he found freedom. And maybe you're not meant to be liked. Maybe you're meant to be feared, respected, remembered. Because here's the reality. The moment you stop following the rules, the moment you stop apologizing for being different, the world will call you dangerous, unpredictable, too much, good. That means you've stopped being a pawn in their game. That means you're finally playing your own. Let me tell you something that should shake you to your core. They don't fear your mistakes. They fear your power. They fear what happens when you stop obeying, when you stop shrinking, when you stop playing along with the illusion. They call it rebellion. I call it awakening. You want to know what real power is? It's when you no longer need anyone's approval to act. It's when your truth roars louder than their judgment. It's when you walk into a room and no longer ask for space. You take it. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man always quiet, always overlooked. He was told to stay in his place. Don't speak too loud. Don't dream too big. So he didn't. For years he stayed invisible, until one day he snapped. He stopped asking. He stopped waiting. He walked into his boss's office and said, "I'm done playing small." He left the job, started a business, took every ounce of rejection and turned it into obsession. Today his name is on the building he used to clean after hours. They call him ruthless. He calls it reborn. That's what happens when you stop begging for a seat at the table and start building your own damn kingdom. Stop trying to be their version of good. Start being your version of real. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them whisper. Let them point. Because you weren't born to be tame. You were born to disrupt. The world has enough followers. Be the villain, not out of hate, but out of truth. Be the one who stops pretending. Be the one who sets fire to the lies. Be the one who chooses chaos over conformity, because chaos is honest. In a world that thrives on masks, the most dangerous thing you can be is real. This world is obsessed with silence. Silent workers. Silent pain. Silent dreams that die in quiet corners. They reward you for being invisible, obedient, compliant. But listen to me. You were not born to be a whisper. You were born to be a riot. They want your voice muted, your spirit tamed, your chaos caged. Why? Because when you speak your truth, loudly, unapologetically, you threaten the entire illusion. You remind people of everything they gave up on. You reflect the fire they extinguished in themselves. You become a mirror, and they can't stand the reflection. So they'll call you too much. They'll say, "You've changed." They'll ask, "Who do you think you are?" And your answer should be, "I am everything you were too afraid to become." Because here's the truth. They don't hate you. They hate the part of themselves that died long ago. and you just made it breathe again. You exist loudly, and that's rebellion. You live truthfully, and that's war. You stand tall when they kneel, and that makes them uncomfortable. Good, you weren't meant to blend in. You were meant to shake the walls. Let me tell you a story. A woman I knew was always soft-spoken, taught to keep the peace, to never offend, to never take up space. She had dreams, big, beautiful, wild ones. But every time she tried to speak up, the world pushed her back down, until one day she broke. Not in shame, in power. She wrote a book. A fierce, unfiltered, soul-piercing book. Every word screamed with everything she had held in for decades. Publishers told her it was too angry, too risky, too raw. She self-published. It went viral. Women wrote her letters saying, "You wrote what I was too afraid to say." Men wrote, "You woke something up in me." And suddenly, her voice, the one they told her to bury, became a revolution. She didn't just write a book. She made noise, and that noise shook something loose in people who had been silent too long. You see, your life is not meant to be quiet. It is meant to echo. When you walk into a room, your truth should ripple. When you leave, your presence should linger like thunder. You weren't born to die unheard. You were born to be unforgettable. So here's your call to arms. Stop shrinking to fit their comfort zones. Stop apologizing for the space you take up. Stop whispering your worth when the world needs your roar. Be bold, be loud, be undeniable. Because the most dangerous sound in a world built on silence is your voice. Let them hear it. Everyone wants peace. Calm, control. A perfectly ordered life where nothing ever hurts. Nothing ever shocks. Nothing ever breaks. But that's not how reality works. Reality is messy, brutal, unforgiving. And if you're waiting for peace before you act, you'll be waiting forever. Because chaos isn't the exception. Chaos is the rule. The question isn't whether the world will fall apart. It's whether you'll collapse with it or rise through it. Let me tell you something most people will never admit. The strongest people you know, the ones you admire, envy, even fear, they didn't become great in perfect circumstances. They became great in spite of them. They learned to build empires in storms, to stand still in earthquakes, to smile while everything around them burned. And so can you. But only if you stop waiting for the perfect moment. Only if you stop trying to clean up the mess before you move. Only if you realize chaos is not your prison. It is your proving ground. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who lost everything in 1 year. His business, his marriage, his health. Everything collapsed. He thought of ending it. He stood on a bridge, ready to jump. But then he laughed. He laughed like a madman, because in that moment he realized something terrifying and beautiful. There was nothing left to lose, and that was freedom. He climbed down, started from scratch, launched a new business from a garage, trained his broken body, wrote a book about the collapse. Today he mentors people around the world, not because he avoided chaos, but because he became one with it. That's what it means to thrive in the chaos. It means you don't just survive the storm. You dance in the rain. You fight in the fire. You build with the wreckage. Joker doesn't fear collapse. He welcomes it. Because when the old world burns, he is already building the new one, brick by brick, inside his mind. So here's your shift in mindset. Stop seeing chaos as the enemy. Start seeing it as the opportunity. Stop seeing the fire as something to run from. Start walking into it with your head held high. Because when everything's breaking, that's when the rules don't apply anymore. That's when the impossible becomes possible. When the system is cracking, you get to write the new law. When the structure is falling, you get to build the foundation. When the world is screaming, you get to become the voice of calm inside your storm. You want to be powerful, then train yourself to stay focused when others panic, to move forward when others freeze, to lead when others break. That's the difference between chaos and mastery. One drowns in it, the other rules it. So rule it, Leiki. So now you know, You were never broken. You were betrayed by a world that feared your fire, by a system that taught you to dim your light, to shrink your power, to silence your soul. But now you remember, you were not made to obey. You were made to rise, not in silence, not in shame, but in flames. Let the world call you wild. Let them call you dangerous. Let them scream your name with fear in their voices. Because when you finally stop pretending, when you embrace the madness, the chaos, the rebellion within, that's when you become untouchable. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need them to understand you. You just need to burn. Burn the expectations. Burn the masks. Burn the life they told you to want. And when the smoke clears, stand in the ashes, grinning, because that's what true power is. To set fire to who you were told to be and become who you truly are. Let me tell you this. There will be days when the world tries to pull you back into its quiet cage. When doubt whispers. When fear claws at your throat. When the fire feels too hot to hold. But remember, you were forged in that fire. You are the storm, not the victim of it. You are the villain, not the victim. You are the chaos they never saw coming. So roar, destroy, create, live loud, love fierce, lead without apology. And when they ask, how did you survive the fall? Look them dead in the eyes and say, I didn't survive it, I became it. Because this isn't about winning their approval. This is about winning back your soul. This is your life, not theirs, not society's, not anyone else's. So live it like a revolution. Live it like an explosion. Live it like your existence is a war cry carved into the sky. Let the world burn and rise from the ashes, laughing, because you are no longer a slave to the system. You are the spark that ignites its collapse. And from that chaos, you will rise unchained, unstoppable, unforgiven, and unforgettable.